this morning that we are going to definitely have some Eagles talk. Of course, we're going to have some Eagles talk. We cannot have a show without having some Eagles talk today. It's a very unusual Monday for a change. So, we will definitely get to that. We also are going to talk some NBA since the preseason has gotten underway, and we are going to talk some Sixers. So, as always, before we do that, you know what we do, you know how we turn it out, you know what goes down. Got some news, some updates. We're going to have some scores for you, some football scores. Then we'll get into some NBA scores and some NBA stuff. And we'll talk a little bit about yesterday's Eagles upset of the New Orleans Saints. So here we go. There was a University of Florida basketball player by the name of Keontae Johnson who collapsed on the court over the weekend. He is in critical condition at the time I first saw this, but I have recently seen that he is now in critical but stable but still critical condition, whatever that means. Kyrie Irving was fined 25 grand for his comments and his non-availability for media during training camp. The NBA reports that 8 players have tested positive for COVID-19. The Lakers are reportedly interested in Trevor Ariza if bought out by the Oklahoma City Thunder. A youth football coach was fired after he was seen reportedly punching players during a game. That is something else that I'm going to make time to get to today. And I posted that, and I got a lot of feedback from friends of mine that played sports, friends of mine that were coaches, and just sports fans and parents in general that had a lot to say about that. So we'll definitely get into that a little bit later on down the line as well. The Heat are reportedly interested in James Harden, and Tyler Hero is not untouchable. The Cleveland Indians could officially announce that they will change the team name after 105 years. Auburn fires coach Gus Malzahn. They gave him a buyout of $21 million. The defensive coordinator Kevin Steele will become the interim coach until further notice. All right. Let's see here. The Houston Texans candidates for their head coaching position are emerging. 2 top names are Eric Bieniemy of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Seahawks' Brian Schottenhauer. LiAngelo Ball was waived by the Pistons. The Sixers are have been reportedly unwilling to trade either Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons for James Harden. So, folks, there you have it, your news and your updates for December the 14th, 2020. And welcome again to another installment of the SportsRap podcast. The information that you just got on air, live air, was the news and updates for today. Now, I'm going to get into some NFL scores before I get into some Eagles talk, because I know I have a lot of people that want to say some things. I know I'm going to have a lot of comments and all of that stuff revolving around the Eagles and their upset win yesterday over the New Orleans Saints at the Link. So let's get into the scores for Week 14 in the NFL. Go back to Thursday night football, Thursday's game. New England was at the Rams. The Rams take that game 24-3. Now we move into yesterday's games. Houston falls to Chicago 36-7. Dallas beats up on Cincinnati 30-7. Green Bay gets by Detroit 31-24. Kansas City just barely ekes by Miami 33-27. Hey, Ivan, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Arizona beats the New York Giants 26-7. Minnesota falls to Tampa Bay 26-14. Denver beats Carolina 32-27. Tennessee bounces back and gets a win over Jacksonville 31-10. Indianapolis does the little number on Las Vegas 44-27. The Jets fall again to Seattle 40-3. New Orleans falls here in Philadelphia 24-21 to the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. and Jalen Hurts in his first NFL start. Atlanta falls to the Chargers, 20-17. Tay, what's going on, bro? Washington football team goes out to the Bay and beats San Francisco 23-15. And in the late night game, not late night, but last night's game, Sunday night, Pittsburgh falls at Buffalo 26-15. Those are your NFL scores for Week 14 in the NFL. So we have a lot to get to. Chris, thanks for tuning in. Yes, Ivan, I definitely can do that, bro. Of course, no doubt. Just get me all the information, all the particulars, and we can definitely talk about that. And that's not an issue at all. So, yesterday, Eagles, New Orleans Saints. Looking at that game on paper, a lot of people just figured, myself included, as I picked the Saints to win last week when I made my picks for Week 14, that I didn't think that it would happen because of the way the Saints defense was playing, the way their offense was beginning to play under Taysom Hill, and with the coaching staff, and having Malcolm Jenkins on that defense, knowing a lot of what goes on here in Philadelphia. So I wasn't feeling too confident about that game on that note at first. And then secondly, you're starting a rookie quarterback against arguably or not the best defense in the NFL right now, which is definitely would have been a tough feat. Apparently, the young man has some swagger. He has some confidence. And he also, in this instance, had some assurance. I'm sure he took all of the first team snaps leading up to the game. When we found out Monday, last week, that he would be the starter moving for this game. I also reported yesterday that there is rumor and there's chatter that he may be the starter going forward within the remainder of the season. 3 games left. They may just let him stay in there and see what happens. But he got his chance yesterday, and again, I think the young man has some swagger. He has some moxie. And again, he had the confidence, like I was saying. He probably took first team snaps all practice. And he knew what was available to him. He understood the game plan. The game plan was catered to him and his abilities. And I hope, hey, Nicole, thanks for tuning in. Now, folks, I hope that you are listening to what I'm saying here. I said that he was confident. He was secure in the game plan. He understood the game plan. The game plan was catered to his offensive and natural skill set. I'm saying this all like this for a reason. And it ties right into everything that's been going on for the past several weeks, and more importantly, the last week and a half, if you will. We have been going through the thing with the Carson Wentz, and it was back and forth whether he should be benched or this and that, things of that nature. So we come to find out that he is going to be benched. He was not starting yesterday, did not play at all yesterday. So we backtrack a little bit in this whole situation. And a lot of the things I talked about when I talked last week, when I brought to the table, who do people think was to blame? I told you who I thought was to blame. I said there was enough to go around, so I spread it out, and I shared my opinions on each particular individual who I said I felt had blame in this whole situation. But some of the things that I just mentioned, the game was catered to his skill set, what he does well. He was confident in the game plan. He understood there was a game plan set. He knew what he was supposed to do. Now, there's 2 sides to this, so don't get me wrong, okay? I will get to both the sides in a moment. For right now, I'm going to stay on this main important side as of just organizational play calling football side of it right now, if you will. Some of the things that I said about Carson Wentz and his hella slump were Doug in my opinion, I felt like Doug, as a coach, needed to get him more comfortable, bring him back to what he was comfortable with within the offense, getting him outside the pocket, rollouts, being able to use his feet to extend plays. Also, on the other hand, Carson has to be a lot more decisive in certain situations. There have been situations where he was put in those positions, but his indecisiveness or his want to try and definitely make a play hurt the team in the long run. So initially, I had been saying that I felt like Doug should have been putting Carson in those positions. I did say that I see it. I said that I saw it in a couple games where it was a little bit too much, too late. In a couple games where I saw Doug call some of those plays, and Carson looked a lot better than he did for pretty much the entire game. But it was, like I said, it was too much, too little, too late at that particular moment. But that gave you the impression, and you understood as a fan that you knew it could be done. Wasn't done consistently enough. And again, when I said I had enough blame to go around, I add Carson into this again with some of the stuff that I just said. There have been moments when his indecisiveness has caused sacks, interceptions, bad plays, where it has hurt the team in the long run. And I say these things to say that what I saw from Jalen Hurts yesterday was a lot different. As I'm sitting there watching the game, there were early plays where he may not have been a designated actual run for him. It just might have been a scramble or a rollout to try and make a play. But he immediately made quick decisions where I'm not going to try and force this. I got some space here. I'm just going to run it and take it and get whatever I can get, and we'll move on to the next play. We're not going to subject and take those negative yards or put myself in the position to possibly take negative yardage trying to finish this play out, trying to make a play instead of taking the running lane and get what you can and move on to the next down. In the passing game, the ball was out of his hands quick. Again, making the quick decisions, which was one of the things that I mentioned about Carson Wentz that I had not seen him doing. And I understand. And I also said that year 5, some of the mistakes and some of the decision making that Carson Wentz was going through was questionable for a fifth-year NFL quarterback. And I can understand if this was your first year or your second year starting, you may be still catching up to the speed. This is your 5th year, technically, as the starter. So these are things that you should be aware of within yourself. These are things that you should be able to handle. These are things that should not really be happening in a 5th-year starting quarterback in the NFL. So they made the decision. They moved on to Jalen Hurts. And he had a very good game yesterday. His stats real quick. Passing yards, he was 17 of 30 for 167 yards and 1 touchdown. He also ran the ball quite a bit yesterday, which is part of his game. And I understand that those plays were put in because that is part of his skill set. Rushing the ball, he rushed the ball 18 times for 106 yards. Looking at an average of 5.9, so let's call it 6 yards per carry. 100 yards rushing from your quarterback. And I'm not sitting here and saying or condoning, say, yeah, well, Carson's pretty much done. He had that one performance. It's one game, folks. One game. But I am acknowledging the success that was had by Jalen Hurts yesterday. And also, in my opinion, the entire team played better. And I don't know if it was the comments from Jason Kelsey, if they had a players-only meeting, some of the veterans stepped up or whatever it was. But that team looked like a different team than we had seen in the past in the last 4 weeks. The defense came out determined and stayed that way the entire game. Two key turnovers or two key pressures late in that game. Okay, to keep keep the end their drives and keep the or get the offense back on the floor, on the field to try and close out that game yesterday. So kudos to the defense for being pretty solid all day until late in the game when the injury bug hit again. This Eagles team this year has been through so much. We understand what's going on with the offense, and that's a whole different story. You could have two or three soap opera storylines from this team this year, and one of them could definitely be the injury bug. The injury bug has hindered this team from since week one, and it's just been a snowball effect all the way into what are we now, week 14. Pretty much the entire secondary was decimated at the end of that game yesterday. The only starter I believe that was still out there towards the end of that game was Jalen Mills, who ironically had to move over to corner so that the other guys could get in, the backups could play. So, still, that's not an excuse for the way things went. And like I said, we've talked about that for several weeks now. But continuing with the Jalen Hurts talk and people arguably or beginning to chatter and say that there could possibly really now be a quarterback controversy. I don't think that is it. I don't think it's one there. I think this may be a situation where they're looking where they might have a Nick Foles on steroids, if you will. When I say that, I mean because he's younger and he has a skill set that Nick Foles did not have, which is being able to use his feet. No discredit to Nick Foles, but Jalen Hurts is a little bit better because he can use his feet. Okay, I think yesterday he commanded the huddle, he commanded the team, he moved the team up and down the field, and he did a lot of things very well yesterday. So, as you know me, if you have ever tuned in to me before, you know, and you follow me on social media, you know me. I'm not going on one game. It's one game. We've got 3 more games left in the season. You've got to do this at least twice more for me to begin to say, it might be some competition in training camp next year. Because the fact is, as we like to give you the business side again as well, there probably won't be a disappearance of Carson Wentz next season. Carson Wentz will probably be the starter once again next season. Hopefully some things will change and they'll get an offensive coordinator, maybe a new head coach, maybe a new general manager. A lot of things could go on in the offseason in preparations and trying to restore the MVP candidate Carson Wentz that we saw in 2017 before the injury. So the business side of that also is the amount of money on his contract, where it would make a major cap hit if you moved him now or next year. Your best thing would be to try and have him fixed next year, see how that goes. And then after that, maybe you think about trying to trade or waive him or cut him. So, but I don't think it's going to happen next year. And then on that note, you also now have Jalen Hurts, who you know what you have in the background as your security blanket. You know what you have there, and you will have seen him perform in the NFL in games, and you will know again what you have in your backup quarterback, who could possibly supplant and become the starting quarterback moving into the future. So I'm not going to label it quarterback controversy. I'm going to go with some of the things that Doug said, and I hate to do this because I really don't like Doug's press conferences. They are really, really not favorable to me, and that's just me. But some of the things I liked about yesterday was and their thinking and their thought process in making this change. And right now at this point, they got the win. So for me, it really doesn't matter how the decision was made because people have been talking it was Doug's decision or maybe it came from Lurie, yada yada yada. At this point, they got the win yesterday. So for me, it really doesn't matter how it came about, but it has been changed and the change has been made. So it did spark the team a little bit. I did notice some things going on with the team yesterday on the sidelines and on the field. Uh, I also noticed some camaraderie where basically the players that were playing were on the field and they're like, "Yo, look, dude, we with you," including the defense. Like, listen, come on, you doing good right now. Let's keep this thing going. We can shock the world a little bit here and do something today. Okay, so it built. I saw some camaraderie there on both sides of the ball. Like I said, offense and defense. I also saw a young man, like I said in the beginning, who showed that he had some moxie, some confidence, and some swagger. Especially the confidence that knows he can get the job done. And he went out and performed and showed that yesterday. I also noticed a little bit difference in play calling. And like I said, I'm sure that they had to get to this point and they had to decide that they have to incorporate plays into his skill set. So they had to adjust the playbook to coincide and compensate his skill set. And again, I saw a different Eagles team yesterday. I saw a team that I hadn't seen in weeks this season alone, especially the last 4 weeks. Uh, there was no wavering. These guys were together yesterday. And again, like I said, I'm not sure how this came about, but they all rallied. Like I said, it could have possibly been Jason Kelsey's comments. And some of those I'm not going to quote, but some of those I'm going to paraphrase where he said, "It's not one person. It's everybody. It's all of us, the entire offense, the entire team. We're all in this together." Basically saying it's a brotherhood, it's a family. And when one of us is not playing good or one of us is not, it's not that one person, it's all of us because we're all in this together. That could have sparked something, that could have changed something in that locker room. And if you don't know, it meant a lot for it to come from Jason Kelsey, the only mainstay from the beginning of the season, from week one on that offensive line, and a player who gives his heart and soul each and every week on this football field for this football team and for this city. And his amazing run and his amazing speech and how he pretty much captured the city in a moment when he spoke at the Super Bowl parade, uh, the ending of the Super Bowl parade at the Art Museum. His speech then, like I said, he captured the city in that moment and ultimately supplanted himself as a legendary sports figure within the city of Philadelphia. He did that in one moment. So for him to say the things that he said, I tend to believe that that had a little bit to do with how that team performed yesterday, how they came together. And we've always heard them say, especially from guys like Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and there's no quit. This team is going to fight. You've also heard that a little bit from Jalen Mills on the back end of that defense. Jason Kelsey has said it. Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert has been, quoted, not quoted, but has been heard saying it. So for Jason Kelsey to finally put it all together and make a statement, I think was some help for that team yesterday. And I think it did a very good thing. So once again, folks, the Eagles get the upset win yesterday and Jalen Hurts' first start. There's definitely going to be a lot more talk throughout the day. I will continue to keep my ears to the street and the situation. And as I get information, as always, like I do, I will bring it to you as fast as I can. as fast and as concise as I can. So before we close out this first segment, the NFL, I'm going to give you pick my games. I'm going to give you my picks for next week, week 15, coming up in the NFL. Let alone tonight closes out week 14 with Baltimore at Cleveland on Monday Night Football. So we move into Thursday, the beginning of week 15. We have the Chargers at Vegas. I'm going to go with the Chargers on the road here. Then we move into Sunday's games. Buffalo at Denver. Denver played a good game yesterday, but I still like that defense in Buffalo. And Mr. Allen is starting to impress me. So I'm going to go with Buffalo. Carolina at Green Bay. Green Bay is beginning to run away with the NFC. They're back at home, and I'm going to take Green Bay in this game. Detroit at Tennessee. Some issues with an injury, some type of rib injury yesterday with Matthew Stafford. I'm going to take Tennessee at home. Houston at Indianapolis. Not really sure what's going on in Houston right now, so I'm going to take the Colts at home. The Jets are at the Rams. I'm definitely going to take the Rams there. Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Atlanta is up and down like they're on that roller coaster. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay on the road. New England at Miami. Mind you, ideally, you would go with New England in this game. This is going to be my push the envelope type of game. Baldy would love this if he was here. My guy Jay Barbecue is going to love this as well. I'm going to go with Miami and young Tua at home. Chicago at Minnesota. Division game, a tough game. Chicago coming off a big win. Minnesota, I'm going to go with Chicago on the road because of that defense. Cleveland at the New York Giants. I am going to go with the Browns there. Seattle at Washington. Well, the Giants beat them, and I don't think they're going to stand for that, which they took it out on... Who did they play? They took it out on the Jets yesterday, so I'm going to stay with Seattle and take Seattle over the Washington football team. Jacksonville at Baltimore. I'm going to take Baltimore in that at home. Philadelphia at Arizona. Surprisingly here, I'm going to take Philadelphia in this game just because I like what I saw yesterday in Jalen Hurts, and I hope they can keep that going for the next couple games, at least for the remainder of this season. Kansas City at New Orleans, going with KC. San Francisco at Dallas. Dallas played a good game yesterday, a really good game yesterday. I look for San Fran to bounce back because of their coaching. I'm going to go with San Fran. And the next Monday, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in that game. And there you have it, folks. Those are my picks for Week 15. It is now 11:40, 20 minutes to the noontime hour, 40 minutes past the 11 a.m. hour. You are tuned in to SportsRap Podcast here on Heat 100 Radio. It's your boy, SportsRap D. I'm going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to talk some NBA, some Sixers, and a little bit more stuff coming down the line. Stay tuned, folks. I'll see you on the other side in just a couple minutes.